on our projects, and then afterwards we will have time to work on our projects in class. Implied lines are suggested lines, lines that were not actually drawn or incorporated in a work of art. Large objects or groups of objects may appear as lines when viewed from a distance. A winding road or river, a train speeding across the landscape, a row of tall trees. Your eyes fill in the spaces between a series of widely distanced marks or objects, thereby creating an implied line. When objects or areas of color meet within a painting, collage, or sculpture, they also create an implied line. Where the shapes touch or overlap, they share an edge. On opposite sides of this edge may be two different textures, patterns, or colors. This shared edge may not be sharply drawn or defined, but it functions as a line within the overall design. We will look at that kind of line in a photo in just a moment. First we're going to talk about another type of implied line. It's called line of sight. Line of sight is an imaginary line from a figure's eyes to a viewed object. A line of sight can help direct your attention from one part of a design to another. So we're going to look at this painting. Everybody done with this screen? See? Yes? Great. This painting is called Christina's World, and it is by Andrew Wyeth. Did anybody happen to go see the Wyeth exhibition that was at the KIA? Got a couple? Oh, I actually did. Yeah? Alright. So yeah, his family, he had, there are many members of his family who were artists, so they had an exhibition about that at the KIA. But this, in particular, is the most popular and famous painting from the Wyeth family. It's by Andrew Wyeth. How many of you have seen this painting before? Many of you? The line of sight they're talking about is this line that's going from her eyes to this farmhouse. She's looking off in the distance to the farmhouse, so it creates an imaginary line going from as where she's looking that appears. Does that make sense? No. It's just a painting.
Maybe she's sitting.
I think he painted it of his neighbor, but that line of sight is what I want you to get out of it. Do we remember yesterday what kinds of lines we talked about? You were. Yes.
Diagonal lines.
Diagonal lines. Very good. What kind of feeling do diagonal lines give us?
Like tense or motion.
Exactly. Perfect. Tense movement. What other kind of line gives us a sense of movement? Yes.
Vertical and horizontal.
We did talk about vertical and horizontal lines. Yep, they give us different senses, different feelings. What kind does vertical give us? Yeah. Vertical?
Sturdy.
Sturdy, yep. Tall, sturdy. Tall. Kind of like soldiers or trees. And what about horizontal lines? Yes.
Kind of like relaxed and
Yep.
laying down kind of like.
Perfect. Like when your body's at rest, calm and relaxed. Or a horizon line of an ocean. And then there's one more kind of line. The fourth kind of line is curved line. Awesome. And that gives us a sense of movement, but it's less tense than a diagonal line. Good job. So this is creating a diagonal line. Maybe it will give you a tense feeling when you look at it. Yes?
That picture that back there, like by Andrew White, isn't that kind of like stalkish and protect his neighbors?
Maybe that's the tension that he's creating with a diagonal line.
Maybe they're great friends.
Look, yeah, maybe look into it. Reason to research is always good. Implied line is also existent in this picture. So, or if you have your books, open them to page 24, and look at the fountain on that page. This line that's going over the top of these fountain, or this water, it doesn't actually exist. There's no line connecting all of the peaks of these curves right here. But it's created because that's where all of their tops are meeting. So where the arch of the water, where it's tallest, see how it overlaps with other water arches? So it creates a line, a horizontal line that isn't implied, that doesn't actually exist in the picture. And page 24, that fountain, it kind of has a V shape between the sky and the water. But it's not actually a line. It's implied. Implied line. Are we clear on implied lines? I know it's a little bit confusing. Yes?
Who was the artist?
Huh?
Who was the artist for that picture?
Andrew Wyatt. Andrew Wyatt.
In that picture?
No, for the Christina's World, the last one.
Who's the artist for that picture?
This is a photograph. I don't know who the artist is.
I know, this is
From Shutterstock. This might clear it up for you a little bit more. The spaces between the corn stalks. They are implied lines. They don't actually, there's not actually an object there. It's the space between them that's making it look like there's lines. Ah, alright. So these would be what kinds of lines if they were implied? What kinds of implied lines? Vertical. And which makes us feel sturdy and tall. Yep.
Aren't they
There you
also
go.
a little curvy?
They are a little curvy. They are a little bit curved. They have a little curve to them, so maybe it makes us feel a little bit of movement. Can almost feel like wind. You feel the wind in the photo. Pattern. Pattern is very important to texture, which we are learning right now as we're studying texture in our projects. Pattern is the repetition of a surface element, such as stripes or polka dots, and pattern can create the look of texture. Texture is the surface quality of an object, which we talked about the other day. We talked about two different kinds of texture. Can anyone tell me what they are? Rough and smooth are examples of textures. Yep, that's a good answer. Yes.
Real texture
Yeah.
and implied texture.
Implied. Very good. Real texture, you could walk up. What's your name? Yeah.
Tristan.
You can stay seated. You could walk up to Tristan and put your hands through his hair, and you could feel what his hair feels like. If you were looking at a picture of implied texture, like a picture of a rabbit, a drawing of a rabbit, you can imagine that if you were able to touch that rabbit, it would feel furry, but you can't actually do it. It's an implied texture because it's done with the way that the person has drawn the surface of the rabbit. And pattern, although texture and pattern are further discussed later in chapter 6 and 11, here we're going to look at their relationship to line. So how are we using line to create pattern and texture in our drawings? Artists often use a series of lines to suggest texture or pattern in their designs. And the watercolor of a hare, which is on page 26, and we looked at it a few days ago as well, from Albert Dürer. Remember him?
Yes.
The artist's short, bold lines combine to create a repetitive geometric pattern with his finely drawn lines that capture the texture of the soft, fluffy fur and lengthy whiskers. Sometimes an artist achieves texture or pattern through the lines that occur in materials. A sculpture may display the grain of wood. A collage may include a piece of plaid fabric. Texture and pattern can also be increased by marking, carving, or otherwise altering the surface quality. Does everybody have this?
Yes.
Alright, let's look at some examples of pattern. These are images that are to help you specifically with your project. Once you finish your insect, it's going to go in the center of a large piece of cardboard this size.